we were lucky to be part of that community and part of that debut author class. And like Jeff said, we'd see each other at that conference each summer, and it was fun to catch up. And I think at the time that a couple years in, we were each in between novels, so we were writing separately. And I was thinking about how he'd served with the SEALs, I'd served with submarines, and I just sort of almost as a lark just threw out this idea: hey, what if we did a collaborated on a book, SEALs and subs? It'd be really cool. And just like, yeah, that sounds cool, but like, I don't know how that would work. Like, what are we gonna each like sit in our room and write? Like, I don't know. I don't know how that would work. I said, I don't know. We can figure this out. Bootstrap it. That's what we do. And so then I have a psychology degree, so I sort of put my psychology degree to work to set the hook. Isn't that
To
right, Jeff?
manipulate me is what he's saying. He manipulates. That's exactly what happened. Like, because I did say flat out no, Jake. Like, I was like, look, love you, but no. Like, that's I'm gonna write the nouns, you're gonna write the verbs. Like, what? I don't even know what that means. So, but he had this vague idea for a book. I said, but look, dude, you're a friend. I'll help you if this is your next novel. And this is where the manipulation. He's like, yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
So we start brainstorming out this novel, which was the first tier one novel where we created uh, Dempsey. And we go on for a couple weeks. He asked again, sort of passively, yeah, I mean, if you want to do it. I was like, I don't. And then after the book was kind of in development and it was turning into a really great story and no submarines in it, actually, as I remember.
Not a submarine to be seen.
Not a submarine to be seen. But the third time he says, look, dude, let's do this. Why don't we just give it a try? Let's do it and we'll write 5 chapters. And if it works, great. And if it doesn't, you can have the story because I don't have the expertise in special warfare to write it because Dempsey was a SEAL. And so I go into it thinking, I got this story from stealing it from Brian. And we started writing. It was the strangest thing of my life, actually. We started writing this book with the idea we're going to write 5 chapters. We figured out what that's going to look like for us. And Brian, correct me if I'm wrong. I don't think we ever brought it up again.
Yeah.
I don't think after 5 chapters we talked about it, right? Like we just started writing, and the next thing we knew, like 3.5 months, the record for both of us, we had this rough draft of tier one done, and that was like 30 novels ago or whatever. I don't know how many books it is, but a couple dozen books at least that we've done since then, and never really looked back. So weird. But I was a victim in this story. To be quite clear, one of the things that Brian and I had in common that sort of makes it work is we definitely write very character and relation driven stories, maybe a little bit more than is common in this genre. And one of the ways we do that is we don't arc things out over just a single book. Like, so we had a vision from the very beginning of Dempsey. If the book was successful and it could become a series, we would like to arc him out making that journey. I had been working both in, sort of the tier one level SEAL teams as well as in some of these spooky task forces. And I was fascinated, as was Brian, with this idea of what is that like going from the very black and white world of here's your target package, here's your rules of engagement, go do it. You come back, you get in a pickup truck and you go eat breakfast, right? Then that was where Dempsey came from. And so his conversion, if you will, from that into the very gray areas that he would encounter in a joint task force where there's an enormous amounts of autonomy and secrecy. What would that be like for a guy that had spent literally a decade and a half doing a very black and white job? And so we started from the very beginning. You see it in tier one, but really, I would argue we're about to start writing the 10th book in that series, actually, literally this week. And his evolution isn't complete. Like real humans, he continues to evolve and he continues to change. I think that, if you read the series, you can see who he was an American operator, how that changed from tier one, how that big change happened from American operator to when he went, into Russia and Dempsey. There's a lot of evolution points. And we were very intentional from the very first time we started writing to make that arc real, and the relationships that he would have with other people. We wanted those to change over time, like they do for real people. So that was a lot of fun. I think it's sort of the key to why people are still buying the book. 9, 10 books later, they still are interested because we continue to evolve them and the story becomes fresh and new. We wanted to avoid that trap for all of us. And you get this, Jake. Like you write a story and everyone loves it. There's a lot of pressure from editors. There's a lot of pressure from publishers. Just do that again. Use that recipe. Do it in over and over and over again. And it becomes a grind if you allow that to happen. So we fought against that from the beginning, I think is the best way to say it.
And the fact that you notice that that's an important part of this story and our branding, um, is great to mention here because, we always say, as a submarine officer, you can't drive a nuclear powered submarine by yourself. It takes an entire crew. And as a SEAL, you can't fast rope into, a hot LZ and take a HVT off the X by yourself, So in fiction, we tend to love the idea of the superhero type of protagonist. You have to give these protagonists agencies, sort of this idea that, Jack Reacher can do it all, right? The lone wolf can do it all. But in our genre, in the military thriller genre, that's not authentic. Team is authentic. And so this cast of characters that we've built around Dempsey is just as important as Dempsey, and so we know that as a reader, you really want to invest yourself into. There's a limit to how many people's lives and backstories and things you're willing to emotionally invest to. So we know that Dempsey he's the leader, he's the tentpole, but he can't exist without his team. And these people not only professionally allow him to do what he does, in his personal life, emotionally, psychologically, spiritually, he needs his team. And so we spend a lot of time thinking about his friendship with Dan Munn and how that, because Munn's, he has his own skeletons in the closet and his own baggage. So how Munn has evolved and their friendship has evolved. Elizabeth Grimes has transformed, arguably more than any other character in the series. Kelso Jarvis, he has a leadership and mentorship role with Dempsey that's been, sort of a father-son type of mentorship, but maybe that's going a little too far, but there's elements of that. And so all these sacrifices that Dempsey has made over the course of the series, these people who love him and care about him, they've been here for him from the beginning and they've seen those sacrifices. And so that family, this idea that your work team becomes your surrogate family, in Dempsey's case, quite literally, is a huge part of the series.
One thing that we do that's difficult as writers and maybe difficult for our readers is, sort of going back to that grabbing the authenticity from real life. We've suffered loss. We've lost people close to us. And it was important to us that Dempsey have that experience as well. And so at the beginning of the book, he has that enormously, obviously. The entire John Dempsey is born out of the death of Kemper and the loss of that team. But in the high stakes world of Joint Task Force, there's going to be additional loss. And so there are characters in this series arc of 9 books now that come and go. And some of those were, very difficult to write. And we know they're difficult to read, but we wanted it to be visceral. We wanted it to be realistic. And so when we've written some characters' deaths before where we have to take a couple of days, like they become so real to you. You know this, Jake. They become so real to you that it's like it emotionally crushes you when you do it. I know people think we just callously dispose of their favorite characters and they hate us, but it's difficult to do. But we thought it was really, really important, sort of playing into exactly what Brian was saying, grabbing that emotional realism for the story so that it's not just door kicking and gun shooting.